city. You know, there's New Orleans is sitting on a gold mine, but unfortunately, there's too many stupid blacks that it basically that's hampering New Orleans from reaching its full potential. Okay. But behind that, like I said, it's a good city. It's a nice city to be in. People say they visit. If we can address like I said, a lot of that, you know, ghetto behavior, ghetto mentality amongst blacks, we'll be much better off as a people group in America.
Yeah, I agree to a large degree. I just don't eliminate how it all started and why we are the way we are today. I like to start from the tippy top. So now you said that. So okay, let me ask you this. You said you don't believe white. Let me ask you: do you believe white supremacy exists in America today? 2020.
No. There was a point in time you could say that, but today white supremacy is honestly it's just nothing but black inferiority.
And what's your definition of white supremacy?
White supremacy would be white people believing that they're supreme.
Okay. Okay. And you believe at one point that was the case in this country?
Yeah, at one point in time it was the case in this country. It's not the case now.
All right.
Like I said, the majority was being labeled as white supremacy. If you actually analyze and break it down, it ended up being nothing but black inferiority. So like I said, that black inferiority complex, that's the problem with blacks today.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe that at one point, because I agree at one point white supremacy was here, do you believe at one point there was a system called systemic racism?
Yes.
And you don't believe that's no longer here?
No. There's no evidence of it.
So what was the evidence of it when it first was here? What was the evidence of it then?
Well, I would say segregation laws, Jim Crow laws that basically you can literally point to and say it hampered blacks. It existed. We can all agree that there were laws in a system in place that hampered blacks, but those laws and systems are no longer in place.
Okay, so now, do you know the definition, the textbook definition of systemic racism?
I can imagine what it is, but go ahead and give me the textbook. So we on the seeing eye to eye. Go ahead and give it to me.
Yeah, so it's more than just laws. It's policies, institutions. It's and then everything that's there creates a lopside where it holds one group down, and by doing that, at the same time, simultaneously, it upholds another, or lifts up another group. So it holds one group down at the same time, catapults another group. So now, when you have that unbalance like that, okay, so if two kids are racing, and I'm saying, oh, on your mark, get set, go, and I hold one kid back, and the kid goes to run, that's not really systemic racism. I got to also help push that kid go further. So that means that kid he won the race, but I helped him, I pushed him, I grabbed him. At the same time, I'm holding the other kid back from running. So it's two things. I'm helping another person succeed, so they're not succeeding by their own merit. I'm pushing them. So it looks like they're succeeding on their own merit. They're not. And I'm holding another group back where they can't succeed. And again, it's not their own lack of merit that they can't succeed. So one action causes two different results. And the results are reflected by one group is successful in something and the other group has fell short. That's systemic racism. You agree with that?
Okay. Yeah. Well, can you give me an example of how white folks are being pushed and black folks are being held back, or these institutions?
Okay. So all right. Let's start. Are you familiar with the Homestead Act of 1862?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that was an act of systemic racism?
Yeah, in 1862.
Right. We live
in 2025. Okay, but we live in 2025 right now. The Homestead Act is completely relevant to today.
Yeah, but I just don't. I'm just trying to fill you out. See, what are you aware of? Because remember, I'm trying to get to why we are the way we are today. It's not just by you woke up and also I'm trying to get to why people are ahead, doing well in America. That just didn't happen, you know, for hard work, sweat, tears, and blood. But I just want to point out the Homestead Act of 1862. You agree that that was like government assistance. It was freely gifted to white people in this country to till land for about 5 years. As long as they tilled for 5 years, they had free access to, I believe it was 160 acres of land, 270 million acres in total. But the question is, we agree that that was like government assistance. It was gifted to white people for free. They didn't work for it. It wasn't deserved to. It wasn't owed. It was just a free gift for whites to help them with land ownership. We agree?
Yes.
Okay. So at the same time,
Michael. Okay. Right.
Just one more thing. At the same time, black folks were excluded. So I'm just dealing with 1862. Then believe me, I'm gonna bring it all the way down to 2025. So at the same time, white people were gifted something. They didn't work for it at all. Black folks were excluded and denied land ownership rights. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that is systemic racism. But go ahead. I want you to respond.
Okay, my only question to that is I don't, crying about the past is not going to help black people today. Because again, the Homestead Act is not stopping one single black person today from doing achieving anything. So I say you can sit here and keep looking in the past about stuff that you can't change. Nobody can do anything about 1865 or whatever. Nobody alive today can do anything about 1865. You can do something about 2025.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up
instead of focusing on the Homestead Act and this alleged advantage that white people had, how about focus on what you have today? Why keep living in the past, looking at the past? There's nothing that a black person can't do achieve today, and anybody can gain success in America. There's a reason why Indian Americans are people who migrate to America from India have the highest income per capita, not because of the Homestead Act they got.
Wait, and who is that?
Indian Americans have the highest income per capita in America. These Americans are the people who are Indian descent from India, not Indians as in
okay, yeah.
Not Native Americans. Indian Americans have the highest income per capita in America. Did they get a Homestead Act or because no, they worked for it.
No. No, wait. When you say they worked for, are you saying they came to America and then they tied their bootstraps and became successful working in America, like from ground zero, like black folks had to start, or did they come to America with education and wealth already?
No, both of them come here with nothing. Because there's what wealth and education is in India.
Okay, so look,
is India a wealthy, prosperous nation?
Yes. Well, not is it. Hold on. What I meant to say, not yes, of course not. They're a third world country. What I'm saying is the Indians that come to America, brother, they are hyper selected. They are the top 5% of their country. They are well educated, and a lot of them already have wealth that was generated in India. The same goes for Nigerians. The same goes for Chinese people. They are called hyper selected. Okay, and then they come over and work for H-1B.
What about Dinesh D'Souza? He didn't come here with all that. There's plenty of Indian Dinesh D'Souza. He didn't come here. He came here with the clothes on his back. None of that still means anything because just as somebody come here with wealth doesn't mean that you need wealth to be able to produce anything.
Wait, just hold on.
Once again, I don't care. We shouldn't be worrying about what anybody else has. You should be worrying about what we as black people have today now. I don't give a damn when nobody came to this country. You can be able to produce now. Stop crying about white supremacy and be able to produce. I don't care what advantage you think somebody got.
I don't cry.
You can be able to choose anything in this country. So stop worrying about what somebody else has. Worry about what black people have and what we do and how we need to progress in the problems that we need to fix among the black.
What do you want? Okay, but when we do focus on ourselves and we look at the past to look at why we're here and what can we do about it, we got folks like you say, don't look at the past, just focus on what's in front of you, but that's not realistic. With anything, with science, even with science, you got to focus on the past. All right, but look,
it's not.
So let me bring it to speed. All right, so because I have like a little timeline that I'm gonna bring to 2025. I started 1862 just to establish something. So now, right after 1862, you had obviously Abraham Lincoln and the Union had won the war, and they emancipated the enslaved black people, right? That was enslaved. 65, then that's 13 Amendment, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so now black folks leading up, during the Civil War, because Abraham Lincoln passed a law 1863 that allowed us to fight in the Civil War to help win. And part of that deal, some of our leaders arranged 40 acres in a mill with Abraham Lincoln. He agreed, his general agreed. Okay, so now, as you know, the war was won, and then 40 acres in a mill. I think it was like 40 million acres 400,000 acres altogether was issued to black people who, the agreement was that you help win. Here you go, 400,000 acres, and it'd be 40 to each person. You divide up amongst yourselves, and so you agree that systemic racism returned that 400,000 acres back to the Confederates, because it was Confederate land. We agreed that, because now I'm bringing you towards 25. Okay, so then you had something called the Freedmen Bank, right? The Freedmen Bank was banks that was established by Abraham Lincoln and his administration, where black folks would have it was a savings bank where black folks, and only a savings bank where black folks were able to work and deposit their money in this facility or this institution. Are you familiar with the Freedmen Bank?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, I'll stay just a 1 minute. So we accumulated, I believe, in today's term with inflation and everything, we accumulated like $76 million. In today's time, had that bank exist right now, we accumulated $76 million. White folks literally turned it upside down. Basically, took the money, ran with it, invest the money in high volatile investments, sabotaged the bank. So $76 trillion in the trash. Black folks got to start back at zero. While those white folks 3 years ago got the Homestead Act, 27 million acres of land. So that's a lopsidedness already, right? So now we got to start back from zero. We had like a little level up, kind of close to where white folks is at, 160 acres for them, 40 for us. We got a fourth of what they got. Cool. But that's a start. Now they took our start and made us start from zero all over again. All right. That's like a little unbalanced. So now we're just trying to figure out how can we catch up where it's an even playing field. All right. So when you go from there, are you familiar with, so now around the 1900s, so we ain't going to talk about the formation of KKK, who terrorized. We're going to talk about, are you familiar with the convict leasing in the pigeon system?
No.
Okay. So at this time, states like Alabama, Mississippi, many slave states, what they did was they started to, because the 13th Amendment clause, you're free from slavery, and slavery is illegal unless you commit a felony. So they started to lock up black folks for vagrancy. And when they did that, they would charge us to pay like the sheriff a certain amount of money, the judge a certain amount of money, and like I think the county clerk or the clerk in the office a certain amount of money. Now we were arrested for vagrancy, not working. So I don't know how we're going to pay a fine. But those folks who couldn't pay a fine, this is called convict leasing. They leased them to the steel mills, the coal mines, and this became like the second wave of slavery. And this happened all the way until the Civil Rights Act. But what I'm pointing out is that white folks, a lot of establishments, like I think Alabama's economy was 70 cents based on this illegal practice. So we see the imbalance again, like black folks working, they can't reap their own benefit, and the money goes towards some white people, some white handlers, and some states. Okay. So that was like that's right after like 1880, something like that. And I'm sure you're aware of, and I'm not going to stay here, but I'm just recapping. I'm sure you're aware of, I'm summarizing. I'm sure you're aware of like Black Wall Street, the black neighborhoods that made a little money. White folks came and stripped those away from us systemically, right? Systemic racism. They wiped us out.
Well, yeah, they burned down Black Wall Street. Yeah, it was burned down. Yeah.
And then you had black. So you had well, there's all called Black Street. There's a whole bunch of them. You had Little Haiti, and they ran highways through other ones. And they
by the way, just want to say, Black Wall Street was rebuilt, and it was actually rebuilt back better, and it had more shops. Before.
Well, you can't say rebuilt, because what we're talking about is that Right, but I'm saying, but that was that right to burn it down in the first place and extract all the wealth out of the community? Was that right?
No, it wasn't right, but it was rebuilt.
Right. No.
So if it was rebuilt, where is it now?
Bro, well, first of all, when it was rebuilt, the people who suffered the race riots, they didn't, or the burn down, they didn't benefit from that. The kids didn't benefit from that. These folks had banks. These folks had insurance companies. I don't know if you know, like, the business that was going on there. So when you rebuild it, are there? But okay. Listen, there's a reason why there's a reparation thing right now still entertaining Oklahoma. Like, there's a black, I think, mayor who's opening to relook at Tulsa again. So the reparations thing is still there. They were not compensated, but you can't justify burning down a city. People died too. How do you rebuild some people's lives? A lot of black folks died, but that was just wrong. But I'm not trying to stay there. I'm just pointing out when we were successful, when we were not blaming white people, and we start to gain employment and business for ourselves, white folks would come by and destroy it one way or another and make us start back from zero. So that's all I was pointing out. I wasn't like staying right there. I'm just pointing out when we didn't complain and when we strapped up our bootstraps, white folks would come and undermine and sabotage and outright burn our cities down, keeping us from wealth and starting back from ground zero. That's all I was pointing out.
Okay, I agree with that, but understand that was the mentality of white people back then. That's not the same mentality of white people today. So you can't hide behind what was done 100 years ago to say that white people are doing it today.
No.
Completely different mindset. Completely different.
Wait, you don't hear it. Wait, you didn't hear it. I asked about Tariq Nasheed. I never told you how I looked at things. Okay, because I don't go around blaming white supremacy for nothing. Right?
Oh no, I'm talking to you right now.
Okay, yeah. So you need to know like my position then. So I'm bringing you down to where I'm at. So Black Wall Street is like 1921. Okay. So now the Great Depression was 1929, right? So leading up to the Great Depression, were white folks collectively doing good in this country, like financially? Or
collectively, I would say no one was doing good collectively. That's why I call it the Great Depression.
Right, and I said, okay, so right after the Great Depression, we can imagine like white folks are still in like a rut, right?
Yeah, and what I'm hearing, it was the World War II that got us out of it. I mean, I haven't done any real research into that, but that's what I'm hearing. It was World War II that got us out of the Great Depression. Right,
but before we get to World War II, and you might be right, I haven't researched that either, and that's something I could do later. But I know other things that was implemented around a little after the Great Depression that helped white society or America rebuild, right? And I'm gonna say white society because black folks didn't benefit from it at all as a collective. But are you familiar with zoning laws?
Yeah.
Okay. So is zoning laws a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it depends upon how they're used. I mean, anything could be good or bad.
Okay. So, what I'm saying is the zoning laws of the early 1900s, where they made it illegal for black people with wealth to move out of the hood, and live in a better area, a better housing, which you're supposed to have access to. You're American citizen. So zoning law, that's wrong, right? Keeping black folks of wealth in the same city as people who ain't doing so well, and then their living conditions were not good, So that's wrong. We would agree zoning laws is bad, right? Racial zoning laws are okay. So now, right after 4 years after the Great Depression, now black folks were working the whole time, right? Before and afterwards, black folks had to work. Hard labor, physical hard labor. We were working like in the field, sharecropping. We were doing physical hard work. You agree? Before, during, and after the Great Depression, we were working really hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Was white folks working real hard?
I would say everybody worked hard.
Okay, so then why?
So you think that white folks were just sitting in the shade sipping tea?
Okay, so then I got it. So then why were they gifted the HOLC, the homeowners loan? I forgot the C corporation. Why were they gifted monies and benefits to own homes? Something they did not deserve. They didn't work for. It was another gift, like like the Homestead Act, if they were working hard and pulling them strings, tying their strings like up like black folks, why were they also now gifted something later, the HOLC?
Well, that's just because you got a loan. That don't mean you aren't working. You still have to work.
Okay,
just because you have to work even if you get this something.
Okay, so now what about the FHA? Right afterwards, so after 1933, they were gifted with the HOLC, and then the FHA was gifted with that in 1934. They didn't work for it. It wasn't owed to them. It was gifted, and it excluded black folks as a collective.
Okay, what about it? Well, I would say this. I mean, you can talk about the past and stuff that happened in the past.
Actually, that past is to, okay, so I'll say that for a reason. So you got the New Deal in 1935. So 34 HOLC, 34 FHA, and 1935 was the New Deal, and what was included in the New Deal is Social Security. So this ain't past. It's something happening right now. SSI. This was you had the GI Bill in 1944 that excluded black folks and that gifted war white veterans home ownership and also free schooling at prestigious schools. These were things denied to black vets. So what I'm pointing out is that 1933 HOLC, 1934 FHA, and 1935 the New Deal, and also welfare came with that, and white folks were the only people allowed on welfare. But all of these things is what created the middle class and white wealth today. The HOLC, the FHA, is solely responsible for white home ownership, right? That help generational wealth. You get generational wealth through land ownership that was gifted to white folks in 1862. I'm trying to point out something.
Okay. But how is that the case? I'm just saying, how is that the case when the majority of millionaires are first-time millionaires today? The majority of millionaires today are first-time. Plus, the whole concept of generational.
I didn't say
the whole concept of generational wealth.
I said the middle class.
The middle class. Well, what's stopping the black person from getting in the middle class today?
Okay.
But what I want to say though is, of all the stuff that you talked about from the past, if you look at the financial figures, black people will gain economic in this country.
When?
As Thomas Sowell always says that from 1940 to 1960, the poverty rate among black people was nearly cut in half. Look at the financial figures. Black folks were closing the income gap with white people.
Hold on. No, you can't say all that.
Look, these are facts. They're not my opinion. These are facts.
Okay, I got you. So Thomas Sowell.
Look at the poverty rate. Look at the poverty rate. No, that's Thomas Sowell. Look at the poverty rate for black people from 1940 to 1960. Was cut in half.
Okay, listen.
Black men were closing the income gap with white men.
Hold on, wait. Hold on. We can't jump from one thing to the other. And that's why I said now look, you said don't go to the past when I said 1862 and 1900s and 1933, but you went to the past. You said 1940, 1950. Because I'm discrediting what you're saying in spite of all of those things. Yeah, but you should be
progressing in America.
Yeah, but no, we were not progressing at all.
Yeah, I just gave you a fact that black people cut the poverty rate among black people.
Okay. Yeah, we cut the
income gap. The income gap was increasing for black people, and they were closing the income gap with white people.
What was our income? Okay, so what was the percentage of the income gap? Do you know? Because I know.
Well, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know they were closing the income gap. I know they closed the poverty gap.
So listen, no, it was
they cut the poverty there.
It was all right. 52%, but we always were working. We were just working the hard, like for example, if you're working 80 hours a week and it's hard work, because our work, we had to work, brother. Unemployment insurance, we didn't qualify for because of the type of work we did. So we didn't qualify for none of the benefits that came throughout the New Deal because it was the type of work we did, right? They made sure that whatever work we did, you were disqualified for these unemployment benefits, SSI benefits, SS, all these things that benefit white folks. So it's not bragging rights to say, hey, we're closing the gap on white folks, but we're still 50% behind, but we're working like hell because we don't have, and we're dying without any type of pensions. We didn't qualify for any pensions. So all of these benefits these gifts that were given to white folks, the things you benefit today, we didn't benefit from that time. But what I was trying to share with you was that you said what's stopping us from doing great today? And what I'm trying to point out to you, there's something that was stopping us from being great was the same thing stopping white folks from being great. And that's why, and that's called opportunity. And that's why white people gifted the government. It's called welfare. Public assistance is welfare. So welfare started all the way back in 1862. White folk has always been on welfare. They were always gifted assistance they didn't deserve, work for, or were qualified for. Nothing was owed to them. It was gifted to them. So when they were gifted with the low interest rates on homes with the HOLC, when they were gifted with down payments, and do you know if they faltered on their mortgage, they wouldn't take the house from them? Like that, that's a hell of an advantage. Now, in this country, general wealth is passed down by home ownership. America has excluded black people deliberately from home ownership. They'll burn your city down if they couldn't get it through laws. But white folks were gifted home ownership and gifted land rights, land ownership. So this is how it was passed down from this person to that child, to that descendant, and itself. You could work at McDonald's and your home can make money for you with equity and things like that. You can borrow against it, refinance. So that was wealth in their hand. While at the same time, we were being stripped from it and locked out. And not just home ownership, they were also given pensions, Social Security benefits, unemployment insurances, and they locked us out of all that stuff all until 1968. For that.
Okay,
welfare.
But are you aware that generational wealth is generally lost by the third generation?
What percentage?
Well, basically, pretty much all of it. By the second generation, usually about 90, 70, 80% of it is gone, and by the third generation, it's mostly all gone.
Yeah, you got to send me something on that. But that's a hell of an advantage. You agree that if I can have a home and this person got a rent, ain't that a hell of an advantage? And it was gifted to me. Nothing I worked for. No, I didn't pull my bootstraps up.
Okay, well, get a home. Buy a home. Black folks can buy homes today. Go buy a home.
Well, okay. I'm glad you said that, because now we're moving closer. So we're going to talk about the SHA of 1968. Okay, that's 1968. So that means black folks were legally discriminated against. Home ownership, like you said, just buy a home, all the way into 1968. Okay, so where black folks were being redlined. Are you familiar with redlining?
Yes, I'm familiar with redlining.
Okay, so redlining started in 1933, back when they gifted white folks with mortgage interest rates so low, no down payment. They won't take your house from you. Just keep trying. At the same time, they instituted redlining, where they said, no, blacks, you're not going to qualify for none of this HOLC, FHA stuff. We're going to systemic racism, draw a line or color code this area to say you guys are high risk. Now they just lied. We were never high risk. They just, your color, because you were a certain color, because you came from a certain ethnic group, you were at high risk. So you were born into high risk. There's nothing you didn't have or did have. You were just born into it. And like you said, nobody's doing good at that time with money. So, but white folks all across America qualified for these free things. So, but anyway, the red line starts from there. Brother, the redlining end, it's 2025. The redlining end.
Well, redlining still exists. However, redlining is legitimate. It's legitimate.
Huh?
Redlining is legitimate. What you do it as redlining is pretty much nothing but a credit rating. Just like you have an individual credit rating based off of how you behave with your credit. If you do the things that's going to cause you to have good credit, you're going to have good credit. You do the things that's going to cause you to have bad credit, you'll have bad credit. So redlining today is determined based off of the behavior of the people in the neighborhood. So the people in your area are doing the things that's going to cause you to have redlining, such as high crime rates, and that makes your area a place that's an area that's not deemed a great place to invest in, where it's going to be considered redlining. But if your area is redlined, it's because of the behavior of the people. Okay. You have to change the behavior of the people.
Wait, hold on. So the behavior of the people in 1934, was that bad?
No, but the behavior of the people today is bad.
Wait, hold on. Well, what about, because I just told you redlining.
Okay, but you keep running. My question is, how is redlining from the past stopping blacks today?
But you got it because
maybe racism was redlining black people in the past. Today is black people's behavior. No. There's no black person who's held back because no redline today other than your behavior in your own community. So if the black community is redlined, then you need to go in that community and tell the people to stop doing the things that's causing your place to be a bad place to want to invest in.
Okay. So
I agree that redlining was bad in the past, but redlining today is based off of behavior. If you have high crime rates, poor academic output, low income per capita, because you make the behaviors, you make the choice of the behavior to cause these things, when that's on you.
Okay.
Not doing the things that caused your area, your neighborhood to be redlined, and it wouldn't be redlined.
I got you. So Soul City.
All it is just a credit rating. It's a credit rating.
I got you. So
it's just the area
City.
Credit rating.
I got you. I heard you 10 times. So Soul City, was that, did that city fail? So in the 1970s, so now we're going past, we're going to the civil rights era. Because you said redlining, stop doing bad habits. So you would agree that when black folks were being excluded from things and being discriminated against up until 1968, do we agree that black folks were not doing anything bad? We didn't have bad behavior. It was white folks with bad behavior who were discriminating us, right, against the...
Yes, back then it was racist.
Okay.
Today it's not.
Okay. Wait.
Yes, it was. I agree.
Okay. So for 100 years, from 1862 all the way to 1968, about a little over 100 years, do you agree that white people, as far as the system, had bad behavior, stripping black folks, depriving us, undermining us, sabotaging us, making sure we started from zero about time the Civil Rights Act started? Do you agree with that? That bad behavior caused that?
Yes, but it's not bad behavior that caused your area to be redlined. There's certain criteria that would make your community
my question was
this place to invest in.
No, that wasn't my question. My question was focused on white people and systemic racism. What I was saying was, so I'm not talking about black folks just yet. I'm saying from 1862 to 1968, would you agree that white people as a collective had that bad behavior, and you will agree that the government, right, the national and state government and all other systems collectively, white people as a collective, had that bad behavior for 100 years? 1862 to 1968.
Yeah, so so you're saying that because they had the bad behavior, they should have the same output as blacks today?
They should have, they should have a worse output.
Oh, well, okay, well, no, because see, here's the thing again, it's the type of bad behavior I'm talking about. Okay, the area is not redlined because somebody supposedly took land. And the area is redlined because you have high crime rates, high murder rates,
so what
academic outperformance. So
I got it. So
did white people back then have high crime rates? Were white people? Well, based off of what? Back then, white people were 13% of the population, responsible for half the murders. Okay. Responsible for like 60% of all violent crime.
Well, at that time, they were responsible. Hold on. You asked the question. At that time, they were responsible for like 90%, especially in the black community. They were responsible for like 90% of murders. Do you agree?
But I'd have to look up the numbers. But so they were 13% of the population responsible for that. Black people are 13% of the 13% of the population responsible for more than half the murder. So 13% of the population today is responsible for more murders than the other 87% of the population.
And look,
60% of all violent crimes committed by blacks. All of the things that will make your area.
Wait, hold on. Back up. Because I agree with you. You said 13%, 50% of the murders. Like that's terrible. That's bad. So I'm not justifying. I'm not, looking over that. That's terrible.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, what behavior, you say that, what behavior of black or white people back then would have made their areas a bad place to invest in? So, for instance, let me give you an example. I like to use two people wanting to open up a shop. Let's say you got person A and person B. Person A want to open up, both of them want to open up a computer repair shop. Person A wants to open up a computer repair shop in the middle income area where people have plenty of disposable income, where they can afford to get devices fixed. They can afford multiple different devices, okay, for their kids and everything. And person B wants to open up a computer repair shop in the hood where the shop is more likely to get robbed and patronized. Well, who is more likely to get approved for a loan to open up a shop? So you telling me, obviously the answer to that question would be person A in the middle income area as opposed to person B trying to do the same thing in the hood. So you're telling me that black people or white people back in the day, they were, that your shop, if you open up a shop amongst white people back then, your shop would be more likely to be robbed and patronized?
It'll be burned down if we're talking about anywhere before 1968.
In the white community? Or are you talking about amongst black?
No, the white community. Okay, so now let me explain. So remember I said the HOLC, right? And I said zoning laws. So now these zoning laws and the HOC, when they was giving white folks gifted homes, basically, give them a free home. Here's a free home. So it wouldn't matter if the money dispersed second, third generation. The fact that you got a free home is the point. All right, that's called public assistance. That's called welfare. Nobody been on welfare longer than white folks. Okay, now, so during the zoning laws, so now, brother, there were some black people who were able to get around the zoning laws. There were some loopholes in that. And brother, they actually end up living, buying homes where white folks are buying homes at, who benefited from the HOLC and the FHA. And brother, can you imagine what happened to their homes? Can you just imagine? Now, keep in mind, you said there's no such thing as a white neighborhood, just a nice area that white folks started to buy up homes. Black folks had bought homes also, a few of them, not a lot, 2, 3, had bought homes in those same nice areas where white folks were at. So it's just to answer your analogy. Do you know what happened to those black folks who was able to get around those loopholes and buy homes next to those bad behaving whites? You know what happened to them? Their homes? They were burned down.
They took it from them?
Burned down.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, so white people, you're saying that it was bad behavior or bad people because they were racist against black. I'm saying is, if you live in the white community, what was the like I said, if you lived in the white community, were you more likely to be killed as if you lived in the hood today? Were white folks killing and shooting each other, thugging, gang banging, thugging and killing and shooting each other in gangs where they pants sagging? There was just mass violence amongst them.
What time frame are we talking about? Are we talking about?
I'm talking about the past. Did they just do that?
Oh,
so
no,
you're saying that white
they were way
people,
more violent.
that white, okay, they were so what was so white people were killing themselves at again. So if they were 13% of probably most of the population, you telling me that they were just killing and shooting each other every day?
Okay,
that there was as much violence amongst white people back then as we see amongst black people today.
Okay, so let me answer that. So, brother, are you familiar with the terms interracial crimes and intra-racial crimes?
Yes.
Okay. So, intra-racial crimes, are black and white numbers the same?
Well,
almost the same. Like, oh, okay.
Well, at a certain point in time, the crime rates amongst black people were really on par with that with white folks.
I'm talking about today. Okay, and then because you said
today, no, that's not even remotely close today.
Oh no, okay. I don't know.
Close.
Okay, then you're looking at.
We can look at the FBI crime stats. Close.
Okay, so I hope you're. Okay, I hope you're not looking at the same FBI crime stats that Jared Taylor was looking at, because if you look at those crime stats, brother, you're not looking at crime stats. You're looking at Jared Taylor stats. But I'm gonna tell you the real stats. So you got Okay, hold on. Interracial crimes. Okay, that means white on white, black on black are close. They're similar. Okay, and then you got interracial crimes, black on white, black on white, white on black. That's 50% black on white, is 11% white on black. Brother, the crime stats amongst each other, amongst blacks and whites are almost identical. And when you go black to white, white to black, those are also almost identical. It doesn't stick out. Nothing shows that blacks are more criminal-minded than whites.
Oh, excuse me. So you're telling me, so white people have the same murder rates as black?
Well, you keep saying murder. There's other crimes out here.
There's plenty of crimes, but according to the FBI, the FBI crime stats, black folks are committing at a far higher rate. And I'm talking about the same stats that everybody uses.
Okay.
That's the same stats that everybody uses.
Yeah, but you keep saying murder, so I'm trying to be more specific.
Violent crime in general.
Wait, hold on.
Okay. Because violent crime and murder is one of the things that's going to cause your area to be red.
Just hold on. Well, okay, brother. Now let's use your analogy. So with the home, with the two people investing in a business and white neighborhood, black neighborhood. Okay, let's go back to that. There's one neighborhood that has crime in there, all type of crime, right? That's A. And then another neighborhood has also crime in there, as B. If B is over policed and more than A, wouldn't you have more crime stats in area B than A?
Well, how is police
so no
B over police? Well, how is it over police though? How is it over police? Over police based off of what?
Well, based off nothing.
But you're saying that the white area, the middle income area has the same amount of crime. It doesn't. You're trying to make the case that white people are committing crime at the same rate as blacks. Not even remotely.
Okay, let's go back. So now
it's not even remote.
Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. So the war on drugs. Who use and sell drugs more, whites or blacks?
Well, where's the evidence that white people use drugs the same? Because again, I know where you're going. You're about to tell me about these studies that say that white people use drugs at the same rate. The problem is that these studies they're not scientific. They're just studies. They're hearsay. Basically, how they come to this conclusion. I'm about to let you know how they come to the conclusion is that they would do a survey. They would ask people and say like drug treatment rehab centers and such.
Well, wait. Okay, let's use that same. Wait. Listen, I know where you're going. Remember, but remember, you stopped me because you know where I was going. I'm gonna stop you. Know where you're going. Okay, so how does the FBI get their data?
From police stations.
Okay, now
they compile data from police stations.
Hold on. So now, and also there's other private entities that also take these stats and FBI get their information as well. Now, the police stations, are a lot of crime, isn't it reported? FBI reports a lot of crimes in white neighborhoods are underreported.
Are they underreported? Based off of what?
According to the same FBI crime data thing that you claim you're looking at, didn't they say that a lot of crimes in white neighborhoods go underreported?
Yeah, I would say so. But then when you also see that a lot of crime in a black community also go unsolved and unreported because there's no snitch attitude.
Now look,
no snitch doesn't.
But you can't ask a question and then if you ask, I don't know if you're asking rhetorical questions or you're asking.
Okay, well, how what's the rate of crime that's being unreported? And for you to say that, because I guarantee you, there's nobody living in the middle income areas that fear for their life the way they would fear the hood, not even remotely. So the fact that you're trying to make this argument is about ridiculous.
I mean, actually, your counter is ridiculous because you keep talking about, you keep trying to reduce the conversation. Well, for one, you said you're looking at the FBI crime stats. You didn't say you're looking at the FBI fear stats or the FBI murder stats or the FBI violent crime stats. You said you're looking at
I look at all the stats.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I'm doing, but you keep trying to pin me back to murder and violent crimes. I'm considering crime. I'm considering, right.
Well, the FBI tracked 31 different categories.
Okay.
But I'm not cherry picking. I'm talking about total crimes. The FBI tracked 31 different categories. Of those 31 different categories, there's only 2 in which white people, the white column, commit crimes at a higher rate than the black. But understand that, you know, the white column outnumbers the black column nearly 6-1. So,
you know,
if
okay, so now let's go ahead, because when somebody commit a crime, isn't the goal to arrest them?
yes,
Charge them and then convict them, right? Get them convicted.
yes.
Okay. Why are blacks and whites being arrested, charged for the same crime, the same rap sheet, the same beginning, single parent, on drugs, high school dropouts? Why, considering all of that, black folks, I believe, are still got a more harsher sentence, got a mandatory minimum sentence, are less likely? Well, hold on, let me just get it all up. Less likely to get the charges reduced, less likely 6-1, I believe, less likely to get their you know, some type of leniency. Why do we have harsher, larger, longer sentences than white folks with the same background profile and with the same criminal offense? Go.
Okay. Well, first of all, what you're doing is you're giving a lot of rhetoric, a lot of rhetorical statements that black people use. As a matter of fact, I've done a video on this that basically more time for the same crime narrative. It's false. It's a false narrative. Because there's several reasons why. I remember the reason where they get this from, the study that they get it from, said that pretty much the charges, the fact that blacks get a higher crime, both time the same crime, is legitimate. But there's several reasons. The number one reason why black people get more time the same crime because of black people commit crime at a higher rate than white people. And statistically speaking, a black person who just basically usually stands for a judge, with a longer criminal arrest record on average than a white person, something that's taken into consideration when sentencing is handed.
Now, I talked about
that's just one reason. That's one reason.
No, but
if you got
you said something different than what I said. I said the same.
No, okay, well let me
the same criminal background, basically identical. Why is the black guy getting a longer sentence or charges less likely to be dropped and or reduced? Everything's the same.
So everything is the same based off of what? See, I need to know how to get these studies, because then also that's just one reason why black people get more time for the same crime, because black commit crime at a higher rate. Another reason why black get time, let me explain to you. Another reason why black people get more time for the same crime is because black people tend to commit high crime rates clustered in hoods, which are typically poor and impoverished areas where you have a bunch of people committing crime in a small area who are more likely to be relying on public officials who are not going to
do white folks live in those same? Okay, watch this. Do white people live in those same hood areas as black folks? Do some? Do not a lot, but do some.
Some, but not a whole lot.
Okay, but doesn't matter.
You talk about areas that have high crime rates like white?
Yes. Yeah, no. Listen, I'm saying
like black community.
Yeah, I'm saying the black community. Okay, I'm saying those same white folks, when they get locked up for the same criminal behavior, the same criminal activities as their black co-descendants, why do they get a shorter sentence? That's what the research is doing. Why do they get a shorter sentence?
The research is based on an average. The research is based on an average. A national average, not one specific white person. Is a national average. Of course, not one. But I'm pointing out to you keep saying
it's a
national average.
Right.
But you're telling me that a white person.
I'm using. Listen. Hold on. I'm not telling you anything. I'm using, and I'm trying to draw a picture. When I say black criminals, you keep comparing the hood to the suburbans, right? The suburbs, and I'm saying no. You got to think about the white people who are actually in the hood with black people who are living a criminal, lifestyle as black people. When they get locked up for the same crime, charge, murder, whatever, they are also getting a shorter sentence than those people black folks in the same hood. I said, how do you explain that?
Well, my question is, so you're saying that these white people that right next to the black person, they both commit the same crime, they stand before the same judge, and the white person gets a lesser sentencing based off of what? Is that based off a national average? They just average all the crimes together?
Listen, I didn't say that.
Well, how did they come to that conclusion that even the white person living in the hood with black folks committing the same crime gets a shorter sentence? How did they come to that conclusion?
So check it out. They checked off all the variables. Now I could give you the studies. You didn't give me one, but I could give you all the studies where they checked off the variables. They filtered, right? They seen. Okay, so the studies are based on white people with the same criminal offenses. Okay, same background. So these are all filtered off to make sure they look at just this. These white people, this study was based on, these white people got on average, a shorter sentence, charges reduced or charges dropped. I mean, like, it wasn't even close to black people. Can you explain that?
Okay, so you're talking about only the white people that live in the hood, is what you're saying?
Brother, I just gave an example of, okay.
What I'm saying is, because I'm trying to, are they talking about just the white people that live in the hood? Or like I say, how did they come to that conclusion?
So,
did they do a national? Are they comparing national average of the whole nation? Or are they just comparing white people that live in the hood and only white people that live in the hood?
Okay, so I'm trying.
Because what I'm saying is, if you give me national averages, obviously it's going to be construed.
Brother,
if like I say, for instance, if you're comparing the crime rates and the average conviction rates of all white people in the whole entirety of the country is going to be construed compared to just blacks or just white people that live in the hood. So is that study based off of just white people living in the hood, or is it based off of white people in general?
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. I mentioned a white person living in the hood because you kept comparing black hood criminals to lily white criminals, like that live in better areas that might have committed similar crime. And you were saying that this is probably why black folks get a longer, harsher sentence. So I was saying, brother, also was considered are those white people who live in the hood. They're part of the study as well. And they also are getting a shorter time sentence, no different than the lily whites in the suburbs who commit the same crime. So I'm saying white people in general who commit the same offenses, similar backgrounds as black folks, as you say, in the hood, they on average are getting more leniency in the courtrooms. That's all I'm saying, bro. That's a fact.
Okay, but it's, like I say, those white people, is that just the white people in the hood or white people in general in the entirety of America? Question I'm asking.
No, it's on average throughout the country.
Okay, so if a white person on average living in a white community, some bad kid who's bad living in some flyover country somewhere in the area where they have very little crime, and that person gets arrested, and the parents have enough money to hire him a private lawyer as opposed to having to rely on the public defenders in the area where a whole bunch of people committing crime in mass and they have to rely on public defenders. Obviously, the public defender is not going to be able to defend you to the fullest extent of the law. So that white kid in the middle income area where the parents could afford him a private lawyer is going to get off. He has a lawyer who's going to fight to get him to the fullest extent of the law, as opposed to public defenders who have backlogs of cases in the hood where they can't defend a person to the fullest extent of the law. So, and typically, when prosecutors know this, they know that that the public defenders can't defend you to the fullest extent of the law, so they'll push for more time to pay their stat. Oftentimes, these public defenders who have a backlog of cases, they're pushing for clearance. They're not going to even fight for you. And these public prosecutors will push for more time to pay their stat. So what you're doing is you're comparing the national average. That's what I'm saying. This is the national average.
Okay, so I just said those variables was checked off and considered. We're talking about white folks with the same similar background, as far as no lawyer, no different than the black guy. So we're talking about.
Okay, but
wait, hold on. Wait, you just went on for 2 minutes and I stood quiet.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay, so that was considered, right? We're talking about white people with similar backgrounds, as far as the lack of lawyers, the lack of resources, money, everything black people experience in the courtroom. All right, so look, so how about this? So how do you address this?
I explained it. I told you if you got to say there's a white person. Okay, I have a suggestion. I have a suggestion. Stop committing goddamn crime. Stop it. You do not have to commit no crime. So black people, I don't care what white folks do, black people, stop committing crime. And guess what? You will not stand before a judge. You will not get more time for the same crime. You will not get harsher sentences. How about that? No more crime.
Fair enough.
Stop committing crime.
Guess what? Guess what, sir? That is sir, I'm saying I agree.
You don't have to commit crime.
Brother, listen, I'm saying I agree. Everybody stop committing crime, not just black folks, white folks too, but what makes it uneven, and this is just the American responsibility. You know, we are a country built on supposedly equality and fairness in 2025 with a blind justice system. So when we see, I heard somebody say, don't give me line, but somebody said tyranny somewhere is tyranny everywhere. Okay, so and the Bible says a little lump will leaven the whole, a little leaven will leaven the whole lump. So sure, stop committing crime. I see the same thing, bro. I really try to preach excellent behavior. So I'm with you on that. You shouldn't be committing crime to even be in that boat, right? I agree with you. But unfortunately, people are gonna make bad decisions. And all I'm saying, when people make those bad decisions, they should have a fair shot at justice, and they shouldn't be their sentence shouldn't be impacted because of the ethnic group and background. But let's move away from crime, because you're right. So at the end of the day, I'm going to say yes, stop committing crime. Now, how about loans, bank loans? How about they're not committing crimes? They're looking for a bank loan for a mortgage or something else, maybe a business. Now, same thing, black and whites, same profile, same credit profile. Both are impeccable. Why do you have black folks 80% less likely to get the loan over a white person? Same profile, same job, same everything, bro. Go ahead. Okay, same savings. Explain that.
Okay. Assuming that, like I say, because they say studies, I just need to know how they conducted these studies and what methodology that they use. Okay, so you're telling me these same people with the same credentials, they're getting the same loan from the same type of institution, to use for the same thing, to use in the exact same place for the exact same reason, and the white people are getting rejected for the loan at high rates.
You know what? Let me get that for you. Matter of fact, I'll stop being lazy.
No, I'm saying because when you say a study, I just need to know how the study was conducted.
Okay, cool.
What criteria did they use with methodology? Because all I know is this: that a black person in America wants to get a loan, they can get a loan. And I know also that black people have credit ratings that's worse than whites.
Yeah, but I wasn't.
I know y'all claim y'all account for all these things, but I need to know how they accounted for it. I mean, if black people have worse credit ratings than white people, then you can't claim that they're rejected for loans at a higher rate.
Okay.
I mean, Native Americans have the worst credit ratings and they get rejected the most. Asian people have the best credit ratings and they get approved more than white people.
Okay. So now you said, what am I looking at? Okay, so according to the Federal Reserve and Urban Institute, okay, black applicants are twice as likely to be denied loans compared to white applicants, even after controlling for credit scores, income, debt-to-income ratios, loan size.
Okay, so all that things, income and place, the type of loan, the type of institution that they go to, what they plan on using the money for, where they plan on using the money for, all of those things are also controlled for.
All right. This move.
Because these are all factors. I mean, the type of institution that you go to matters.
All right.
What's the risk tolerance of the institution that you're going to? Mm-hmm. All of these things are variables in giving loans.
I understand.
The fact is that all I know is that black people have worse credit ratings, far worse credit ratings than white people. So I would say if you are a black person, focus on your credit rating. Do the things that make your credit get better to get better. And you can't stop worrying about what white folks are doing, stop worrying about what you're doing. Because like I said, everything you've done thus far is to cry about the past. All I know is we can do nothing about the past. As a black person, all you can do is deal with what you have today. We can sit here and keep crying about what happened in the past, Homestead Act, that's not stopping a single black person today. Or you can roll up your sleeves. This is what we got, roll up our sleeves and go forward. I'm saying there's no reason to keep crying about the past, because nothing in the past is stopping you today. There's no opportunity that's denied to a black person today. So let's start taking advantage of the opportunity. And we, like I said, we can look at countless people who come to this country with nothing to do well. Everybody doesn't come to America with all that money. Everybody doesn't come to this country with all these resources and capital, which honestly doesn't make any sense. Because I always ask the question, if all of these people come in with all that wealth, where did it come from? And why don't, if you making all that wealth in your homeland, why don't you stay in your homeland and keep making that wealth? Why don't you leave your homeland where you're making all that wealth to come to America and probably one of the most competitive markets on the world? But this idea that everybody's coming here with all that wealth is a myth.
Okay. And what studies have you looked at to debunk and to show, and the same requirements you actually made, where you get this meat from? All some of the myths. How did you come about the study and all that type of stuff?
Well, I asked the question. I don't work about the study. I asked the question. What exactly is it that a black person today being held to achieve? As I said, can you name me the income? Can you name the lifestyle? Can you name the occupation? Is there a career path? Is there a sector of society? Is there a university that a black person can't go to? No, there's absolutely nothing that a black person cannot do achieve in America today. So why you keep worrying about what happened in the past? None of that's irrelevant to today. None of it's stopping you today.
Get to see.
So you want to handcuff yourself, focusing on a past that you can't change. You don't have a time machine, so you can't go back and change it. All we can do right now is focus on what we have today. As a black person, what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve?
All right. So last question.
I just want to add something. I like to use the high school senior analogy. Let's say there's a black high school senior in school today that wants to be an engineer. What's stopping them from being?
Money that was stolen from us. But let me ask you this. This is the last thing.
Well,
last
you can get loans.
We're not getting loans. I just read that. But look, let me ask you this.
Black folks aren't getting student loans, but they got black kids in college getting credit cards. What are you talking about?
All right, last question. And you know I was going to ask this, right? Because it's one of Tariq's main talking points. How do you feel about reparations for black people? Foundation Black.
Here's my question. The question I have for reparations is repair you back to where, the root word of reparations is to repair and restore, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, repair you back to what? Now, if black people came to America as slaves and now you're free, what exactly do you want to be restored back to?
Okay.
What can you be restored back to other than a slave?
You had a question.
Like, what can you be restored to other than a slave? And also,
hold on.
Reparations, okay, go ahead.
Okay, I got to address some things. Okay, so brother, reparations by definition ain't what you just said. Reparations is to reconcile a past harm. Hold on. No, that's your definition. But the definition of reparations is to repair a past harm. You just made something up. I'm giving you the definition of reparations. Now, hold on. So the person who is harmed in the past, they work it out, or a court system or whatever, they work it out how this repairment is going to proceed. Now, some folks might ask for certain things, and other folks might ask for other things. Okay. But it's no different than like a lawsuit when somebody was harmed, even, by someone, a car or whatever, a brick fell in your head. So you can say, hey, I lost a job, all these things can be considered in your lawsuit. So reparations for the Jewish people, brother, were they returned back to Germany when they got their reparations?
Yeah, well, I would say maybe I probably went to Israel. Did they go to Israel, I believe?
Yeah, but were they?
When it was,
No. Oh wait, hold on. Were they in Israel when they got Holocaust? When they see okay, so they're okay, right. So you said repair is to repair you where you once were. So now Jewish people, they got reparations, but they didn't go back to Germany. Now, are you against their reparations? I don't know. Are you?
well, I mean, the people who personally suffered, yeah, they got the people.
Wait, no, they're still getting. Wait, hold on. They're still getting paid today. So those people did.
Well,
and they're still getting paid today.
Well, what agreement was made though? But they got it when those people were still alive though. Okay, so what agreement was made? Hold on, bro. What agreement was made?
Stop. Did those Germans pay them reparations?
Yeah, the people who personally went through the Holocaust, who were still alive at the time. So you're saying those people are still dead, but they got it when they were alive.
Okay, so
did they not receive the reparation when they were alive?
Wait, yeah, they did. Hold on. Who enforced them to pay them reparations? Who enforced that? Did they win in a German court? So what I'm saying is, okay.
I have no idea. Okay. When they were still alive, when they got it.
All right, but hold on, because you like to use context, because you've been doing that all day, and you like to go to nitty gritty and pinpoint things and dissect things.
Well,
so let's
context matters. Context matters.
Right. But when I give context, it doesn't matter no more. So you like pick and choose and cherry picking, just like Larry Silver and everybody else. All right, but look, I met Larry Elder and Thomas Sowell, but Jewish people, when they got reparations, did they win in court amongst the Germans, or did a foreign nation intervene and say, "Hey, you got to pay these guys reparations"? Or the foreign nation intervened?
It was a foreign organization. I'm guessing foreign organization.
Right. Now, how did that happen in history? That a foreign nation that has nothing to do with it steps in and say, "Hey," and then watch this. Why are we paying them? You just said that the Jewish people.
Well, we don't pay them reparations. We pay Israel foreign aid. That's not reparations. We pay foreign aid to a lot of countries.
No.
We pay reparations to Jews.
Listen.
What reparation are we paying to Jews?
So all the money, I don't know. Maybe you could tell me. So the Jews.
It's called foreign aid. They pay foreign aid to Israel, but that's not reparations.
Okay, so why are they paying foreign aid? Let's go there then. So why are they paying foreign aid to Israel?
I have no idea why we're paying foreign aid to all these countries. I'm opposed to. I'm opposed to. We shouldn't be giving Israel another dime. We have enough debt in America. We should be giving foreign aid to them.
All right. Okay. No problem.
I think that's political policy for whatever reason.
All right. Yeah. No problem. All right. Hold on. Okay. No problem. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. All right. Fine. Let's just back up and bring it to America. But reparations, by definition, is something owed for past harm. That's the definition of reparations, and this is why people got reparations from this government. They felt that they were harmed, something past. Now, Black people condition were a little different because we were being mistreated, killed, and destroyed by the same people who would have to agree to give us reparations. So that same government had passed illegal laws like Jim Crow. So there's no way that they were going to hear a reparations claim because they didn't even see us as equals. So that's why the reparations claim, if you follow it, it really came after the civil rights era where we were seen as equals.
Okay, but the question is, if they would have gave Black people back in the day those reparations, most of those people are really not existing now. I'm talking about today. You want to restore kids today to what? What do you want to be restored to in America? That's what I'm asking. Hello?
A small hold. 1 second. Hold on. All right, brother. Let's my son out here, he ready to eat. So let me wrap it up. Can you just explain what CLR is about?
With common sense, logic, and reason. It's just all about common sense, logic, and reason. That's all it is.
Yeah. And okay,
that
simple.
I'm a logical person. I operate based off of logic. And logic, like I said, logically speaking, again, just to close in with reparations, I just don't see that as absolutely nothing that black people can do today that they couldn't do if they got reparations. And furthermore, reparations would help black people. So there's just too much ghetto amongst black people. All they're gonna do is take their money and spend it. And
so what is the solution? So what is the solution to the ghetto mentality, in your opinion, and from your experience and your research and everything?
Oh, well, it starts with truth. And the solution is, it starts with the truth and being honest and truthful.
Okay.
And then the solution is that we as black people got to stop worrying about white folks. We got to stop worrying about ourselves.
Right. Like so how do we stop worrying about white folks? Like, what's the process of stop? How do we stop, like a realistic, practical approach? Like, how do we stop worrying about white folks and focus on ourselves and just live for the future?
Well, stop letting race hustle like Tyranny keep crying to you about white supremacy.
Yeah, but most black. Hey, but can we agree with this? Can we agree that most black Americans don't even know who he is?
That's true, but that's even though most of black Americans don't know who he is, unfortunately, most black Americans are still under the same black victimhood mindset. As I said, it's a big lie narrative. It's still being told big enough and long enough and loud enough that America is a racist country with all the systemic racism. There's nothing systemically holding black people back. But do
you believe that? I'm just asking this question. I'm just curious. Do you believe Malcolm X was a guy who complained about victimhood as well? Or did he have a more realistic argument, a logical argument?
He had a logical argument in his day. In his day, everything he said was right. And in our day, what he said is not right.
Okay. And would you consider yourself a Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal?
Conservative, but I'm registered independent, but I'm a conservative.
Okay. And would you? So you mentioned Thomas Sowell. How about? Are you a fan of Larry Elder as well?
Yes.
What about Candace?
I love Larry Elder because I'm a logical, factual person. He just gives nothing but logic.
What about Candace Owens?
Yep, Candace Owens, huge fan of hers. Same thing, nothing but logic.
Charlie Kirk?
I'm not familiar with Charlie Kirk that much, but I watched some of his videos. I believe, he tells a lot of logic. You know, he's guys that does a lot of interviews on college campuses, right?
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk, he's very logical.
What about
if he said something wrong, I would disagree, but most of what he said is just logical points to those college kids.
What about? I'm interested to know how you feel about Jared Taylor.
Jared Taylor, again, he's logical. Like I said, I'm not really into the alt-right like that. I just don't care about the alt-right. Because the alt-right is not stopping a black person. A lot of things you say, I've heard him say logical. I saw his debate he did with Tariq Nasheed, and he was very logical in this debate.
So, okay.
But like I said, I just thought,
okay, no, during that same debate, he just want black folks to go live somewhere else and white folks take on America by themselves. Was that logical as well?
Well, if you believe that America's so bad, I don't know why you wouldn't leave.
No, that's not what he said. No, listen, it's not about.
He wants black people to leave.
Yeah. It's not about being bad. It's not about being bad. Like, okay, the reason why he thinks. Okay, remember you said the hood mentality is destructive and it's going to bring about a criminal mindset and probably find yourself in a prison system or a courthouse, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so your conclusion for the criminal mindset is different than Jared Taylor's. Do you know Jared Taylor's reason for a criminal mindset?
Not really, no.
Okay, so he said black people are just dumber than white folks, and when you're that dumb, you can't, as a whole. So he's not saying CLR is the one smart black guy, and everybody else knows. He says black people, we're talking about global blacks. Globally, black people are just inferior as far as intellect than whites. And this is why globally black folks don't produce something like civilization and other things that white folks can't produce. So he said based off that, he'd rather not be around black folks because they don't really produce anything that helps society like white folks can do with like all the let's say the inventions, cars and computers and science. He's saying black folks really don't contribute to that. Like they just contribute to more what you're talking about, a ghetto lifestyle. But he doesn't separate the educated ones from the high school dropout gangbangers. He lump them all up together. You think that's a logical conclusion, or you think that's illogical?
Illogical. Black folks are just as smart as anybody. Black people have been in many things. The problem is that black people, we went south when a black family was declined. The decline of black family. That's when black people went south, and that's what we need to be. That's what we should be focusing on, repairing the family.
Hey, brother, the main illogical thing you said, I believe, you said common sense, logic, and reasoning. The main illogical thing you said today is when you based you penalize bad behavior. You said bad behavior should be penalized, and then when I showed you white people with over 100 years of bad behavior and not just penalized, you said bad behavior should be penalized, but also it should reflect a underprivileged community, right, or position. So when I show white people collectively, even the system of government has practiced bad behavior for over 100 years, instead of you saying, because they didn't reflect underprivileged or folks should get penalized for bad behavior, you just wrote that off like, hey man, oh well, that's just life.
Well, no, I didn't write it off.
You didn't?
No, I just said, I said that, again, when I say that the bad behavior, I'm talking about the high crime area. White people have done bad things to black people. That's true. Sure, they were bad in that regard, but they weren't doing the things that make the area a poor area to want to invest in, a poor place where an area where people want to live. That's what I'm saying. They weren't killing and shooting each other. They weren't having high crime rates. They never had crime rates.
There's no higher crime
today.
Brother, there's no higher.
White people do not commit crime rates like black people do today. That's ridiculous for you to say that.
Okay. So let me just respond with this, and then we can, you get your last word. I'll call it a day. Brother, you said white folks didn't commit as many crimes as black folks today. Brother, the system of Jim Crow was nationwide. The system of Jim Crow is legal, so everything a white person did on a day-to-day basis was basically violating the law. To have a whites-only sign, that's discrimination. To have segregated schools and segregated banks and libraries and deprive and then have sundown and all these Jim Crow laws, brother, that you can't get more criminal than that. Like, for example, if a black person's criminal, it's normally an individual act. It's not something organized, and it's definitely not a system. White people were so criminal. They didn't just do individual crimes. They organized, and then they had a whole system that could repeat it without them even being there. That's why I don't shout out white supremacy, because white supremacy, for that to exist, you need a white supremacist. But a systemic racism, you don't need a white supremacist there. It could be black, white, Chinese person just operating and keeping the system going that discriminate against foundation black Americans more specifically. But that's my end right there. That's my outro. You can leave with your last words. We can call it a day.
Okay, like I said, first of all, when we talk about criminal bad behavior, you're comparing them, quote unquote, taking land and stuff. That doesn't make your area a poor place to want to live in, such as an area where you fear for your life. But as I said, again, black people were treated horrible in America. Nobody would disagree with that. All I'm saying is none of that's stopping us today. All we can sit here, we can waste our time and energy looking toward the past and talking about the white folks did this in 1817, they did this in 1920 and such and such forth. Or we can say, look, this is what we have before us right now. We can go forward and we can start building and producing. Let's address the problem amongst Black people. If the problem is mostly a lot of ghetto nonsense, that we need to address that. All we can do is deal with what we have today and move forward today. Crying about the past is not going to fix anything.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and I just wanted to get your thoughts from your mouth. I didn't want to watch your videos and conclude what you probably don't believe. All right, man. And if anything else, maybe we can speak again. Our contact. I got your email. Our contact. Maybe even I'll even see what are you doing. Because I want to get some of those stats for you. So I want to, it depends. If you're free Saturday about 6 p.m., that works for me. It's not confirmed. It's just something I'm considering. Like maybe a Saturday 6 p.m., 6:30 conversation. Same thing, but more stats in front of me that I could read. All right, brother?
Okay, well, yeah, this was nice conversation. Just because this is what we need. We need to have real conversation between people with different ideas and principles, different mindsets.
Yes, I agree. All right, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. I appreciate you for,
All right, man. Thank you for contacting me.
Yes, sir.